welcome to the journey. And as many of the listeners have know, that the journey is about stories of individuals who have had maybe either a setback in their life or some type of obstacle in their life. And then what they did with that obstacle, what did they learn about it? What did they learn about themselves, and how they transformed through those obstacles, and how they're come out on the other side. We've had guests that have talked about uh, their pain becoming purpose, or how they got moved into a different career, or how they addressed some type of something from their past that was still affecting them. And so sometimes we have guests that talk about that, and other times we will have guests that are making differences in the community, and that's what we have today. We have Caitlin Pusateri, and on to the show today. She's from the Rockford Chamber of Commerce, and so Caitlin, welcome to the journey. And
Thank you so much.
if you could tell us, maybe just give us a little bit of background about yourself and who you are, and most important, what does Caitlin do for fun when she has an opportunity to have fun?
Yeah, so thank you so much. I so appreciate the work that you do, Kevin, in the community and with this podcast. I know that people can find a lot of hearing the stories of others. So thank you for doing this. But like you said, my name is Caitlin Pusateri. I professionally am the executive vice president of the Rockford Chamber of Commerce. As a human, I am 35, almost 36. I am a Byron native. So right outside the Rockford region, and growing up, it was interesting because we went to Rockford for everything. You couldn't get socks in Byron. We couldn't get McDonald's in Byron when I was a kid. So Rockford has always been a place that I've frequented, but it didn't really feel like home until I moved here after college. So I moved to Rockford proper after completing my bachelor's in music, vocal performance, and business administration from Illinois Wesleyan University, and have lived here ever since. My husband and I actually now, we moved up north a little bit. We live in Rockton and have two kids. We have a toddler who's almost 3 and a almost 5-month-old. So
Oh, wow.
we are tired.
Yeah, you have your hands full.
Yeah, we're tired. We're tired.
Well, I have to go down a little bit of a bunny trail here. So my
Yeah,
daughter started performing in musicals when she was 8 years old, and she's
awesome.
20, and she's 23 now. So it sounds like that was some of your your history is musicals and
Yes.
performing. So tell us
Yep.
a little, tell us a little bit. Where did you get started with that, and how old were you?
I think I was, it's interesting. I don't know when I started to sing. And that was my instrument in college. My mom says that, when I was a tiny little kid, 2, 3, I don't know, that she knew I had musical abilities when we were listening to a soundtrack in the car. And I said, listen, right there, right there. And she's like, what are you talking about? I said, that's where they throw the snowball. So I could put instruments and what I had seen together, I guess. And she felt that was genius, but parents often do. So, but I think it's interesting because I was just told from an early age that I had a talent. And so I just believe people. And I think it's some natural and some just that confidence to go out and keep trying it. So I started singing. My mom says I started talking the moment I came out of the womb, and then I started singing soon thereafter. I started doing musicals through Byron Civic Theater, which is their community theater,
Sure.
in like 3rd grade, maybe, really young, music camps and things like that, and then continued all through high school, and then studied classical music in college, knowing that it was not going to be a career for me. I so appreciate the arts and those that can make a career out of it, but it is hard work. It is hard work to be a classically trained singer, and it was not an area that I felt I was going to excel in, just from the instability of it all. So I was so happy to do it in college. I got a scholarship, and I got to keep having fun, and then I get to just do it as a side hobby now.
Yeah. Gotcha. So when you get to perform now, is it in a musical, or is it in some other capacity? What capacity would you be performing, like in your last couple of years in your 30s?
Right now, it's a lot of lullabies.
Yep.
Uh,
Sure.
so right now I'm not performing much. So I actually found a lot of, I've always sung in my church. So I like to cantor. I've cantored at a couple different churches throughout the community. And right now I'm not even doing, because of COVID and such, I stopped doing that. I'm hoping to get back into some musical theater. My husband is musical. I think eventually my kids will like it. So I'm hoping once I can have a little bit later bedtime routine for them that I'll get
Sure.
back to community theater.
Yeah.
So for now, a lot of bedtimes, a lot of bedtime nursery rhymes.
Sure, sure. Well, and we talk about that on our life's journey, that we have different seasons where we're able to
Hmm.
put in different aspects of our energy and our time commitments
Yeah.
at different times, and that's okay. We don't have to.
Hmm.
We don't. I think so many times we get caught up in thinking that if we don't do it now, all will be lost and we won't ever be able to regroup it. And
Yeah.
maybe in some things where it depends on a certain aspect of physical ability regarding speed or
Sure.
that may be true, but I don't know if that's true across the board with all gifts and talents. So
Yeah. And music is one that, my roles may change. I'm probably not going to play Dorothy on The Wizard of Oz much anymore as I get
sure.
older,
Sure.
but I could probably play a mean Cruella de Vil eventually.
There-
So, I
yeah.
mean, there's just things change, and I'm happy with the season I'm in right now. So,
Sure. Okay. One last question for
yeah.
the musical part. What
Yeah.
was one of your either favorite roles or favorite shows that you did?
Believe it or not, I was Aida in Aida, and
Okay.
that was phenomenal. And because it's such a rich score, and it's a diverse story, which is wonderful. And I grew up in an area that wasn't quite as diverse as I think it's improving, but
Yeah.
um, it was pretty lily white when I was there, and it may still be a bit, but that gave me the opportunity to study some scores that weren't something that I would naturally come across necessarily. And granted, Aida is the true the true opera is more diverse than the musical itself, but it was
Sure.
a good open door into like, wow, culturally this music is amazing, and what else can I find that's a truer example of this culture and such. So it was just fun, and it challenged me musically, and it was pretty awesome.
Nice. Very,
Yeah,
very
pretty
cool.
cool.
Yeah, and I think that I always like asking that question of artists and performers, because they, just like you just said, there's a story behind the story of
Hmm.
why they embrace that particular character or that particular show that they were in. So, well,
Yeah, it was awesome.
let's jump into, so how did you end up at the Rockford Chamber of Commerce and working there? So tell us a little bit about that story, and then I know you have a
Sure.
huge event coming up, and so
We
yeah.
do.
Yep.
You do. So I actually been with the chamber in a variety of roles for 11 years now, 11 or 12 years. So when I originally came back to Rockford, I graduated right in the start of the Great Recession. So 2008, I graduated in December of 2007 and wanted to be an event planner,
Mm.
which in the recession, there wasn't a great calling for event planning. So my maternal grandmother lived in Rockford and was actually an immigrant from Germany. And she spent my college career sending me postcards about why Rockford was amazing. And so she would write me letters, and she would clip out little articles for job fairs and all these things. And she just was like, I think Rockford can be a great home for you. I think Rockford could, you'd be good for Rockford. Rockford would be good for you. And I was like, yeah, okay, grandma. I wanted to go somewhere bigger. Um, but the recession kind of grounded me here for a little bit. And I'm so glad that it did, because I see what she was talking about now. And a lot of that is thanks to the Rockford Chamber. So I say that my grandma was the original Rockford recruiter, but then my work at the chamber actually solidified relationships here. So I started my work with the chamber as a volunteer for the young professional group. And I had, being from Byron, I was only 20 minutes away, but I graduated from college a semester early. And I didn't have any friends, to be honest. I mean, everybody was still in school or moved elsewhere. And you can only sit at home and watch Netflix for so long before it's a bit much. So I needed a tribe, and the Rockford Chamber happened to be starting a young professional group called Ignite, and I got in on the ground floor and was one of the original volunteers, um, and became the executive director of the group probably a year and a half later, and started my professional career with the chamber. So I left and did a few other things and stayed doing some part-time work for the chamber behind the scenes. Came back in 2015 as vice president of leadership development, and then this past February was promoted to executive vice president. So it's been phenomenal work. I get to see all parts of the community, and it's an amazing thing to be able to help your community through business, which people don't always think of that when they think of, doing good work. But if employees have good, stable jobs that fulfill them and, help them provide for their families and whatnot, that's an important aspect of healthy community and healthy life. So it's a privilege to be a part of that. And the work is always changing, which is phenomenal and good for me. So that's how I came to the Rockford Chamber and how I got to where I am now.
Gotcha. It's interesting that when you talked about, one of your roles as you moved around in the chamber was getting brought into a position of leadership development, and
Mhm.
we talk about this idea of helping the community. And one of the things when I think of how do we help the community is providing healthy, vibrant places for people to work. And if that work that we do is also helping people, right?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, either you're providing services or you're providing product. And in most cases, both of those things at some level are assisting or helping people.
right. Yeah,
Even if we're in, agriculture or working with livestock, what are the livestock at some point going to be doing? So
right.
there is that big circle. And I know for me, I've been a therapist or counselor capacity, for 31 years now. And about 10, 11 years ago, I made a decision was, okay, Kevin, if you want to help people, you can do that by having a caseload of 35, 40 people a week and do some groups, and that's okay. So that's good, that's honorable to do. But what if you help people who help people,
Yeah,
and if I can help therapists help them be even better therapists, then exponentially we'll be able to help more people. And so
right.
so it's that concept, kind of like what you were talking about, of and now that's kind of expanded for me, even beyond that, regarding a new role that I have regarding leadership development. And but it's again that model of helping people who help those who help people. And
Yeah,
so, so,
yeah.
so go ahead. You sound like you're going to say something.
You you spend a lot of time at work, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know the exact stats off the top of my head, but if you assume 40 hours a week, which I think especially amid pandemic, people spend a lot more time, maybe not physically in an office, but working. That's a large part of your life. And the whole community is better if you're miserable every day where you go, that's going to seep into other parts of your life. You're not going to actively participate in the community. Your family may suffer just because you're not happy. And I can't say that I guarantee happiness at every employer, but I can help employers figure out the best way to be the best employers they can be and help their employees, which in turn helps the community. Our membership represents 60,000 employees through across the region, and that's a huge part of who you run into every single day. So, if we can help make the business community better, that can help make the education community better, which can help make the healthcare community better. I mean, it just is such a ripple effect. And in the end, we're all helping each other, which is a phenomenal part. It's phenomenal to play a small role in that part of the community. So
Well, I
good work.
definitely appreciate your vision for that. I appreciate what the chamber's commitment to that has been, and
Thank you.
I know that the chamber as well as yourself is is a resource for young leaders and for established leaders
Yeah.
to continue growing and
Perfect.
developing. So I know
Yeah,
you have an event coming up,
we
and
do.
that's October 28th, right?
Correct.
Yes. So why don't you
Correct.
tell us a little bit about this event, and tell us a little bit about the event. Tell us what your vision of the event is, and then feel free to tell us that, any special things that are happening during that day.
Yeah, so the event is called Power, and there is an H in front of the E, so Pow her. So we pronounce it just Power, but it is a conference for all those who champion, believe in, and support the advancement of women. So it is not a women's conference; it is a conference to support women. I make that point because men are welcome and encouraged to attend. So this idea actually came, we have done a women in business luncheon for a while, quite a long time. And I decided actually in 2019 that we could probably be doing a bit more to champion women in the workplace, and decided to expand that event into an all-day conference. And so we originally scheduled it for 2020. June of 2020, I believe, was the original date. It may have been March. And the world kind of fell apart. So we ended up just taking a step back and putting it on hold a bit, and just doing kind of a hybrid version, or excuse me, a more virtual version of our traditional Women in Business Luncheon. So we put it on the back burner until 2021. And this year, obviously, COVID is still with us, alive and well, but we decided that this conference needs to take place. It was important to, it's always been important to advance and champion women. It's really important now to, women have been the most impacted. They've been disproportionately impacted by COVID, especially working women, and especially women with children. In large part because a lot of women have been forced to leave the workforce due to childcare issues. And while some of that is straightening itself out with the schools reopening and being a bit more traditional in how they serve our youth, there's a lot of women that are still kind of reeling. And there's a lot of studies that show that women are still taking on a lot of the mental load at home, a lot of the invisible work, both at home and in the office. So it's important that we figure out how we stand up and say, women, you are valued, you are important, you may need additional supports and services that perhaps a typical male may not need or may not realize they could offer to women. So the concept was to create this all-day conference, and now it just I just am even more impassioned and empowered by it. So we created 3 tracks for women because, not all women are in the same place in their careers or in their lives. Not all people, I guess I should say. So there is a track for balance, so focusing more on those personal sides of the house. We have a session on how to juggle motherhood and professional careers, stress management, which you are helping us with, and a few other topics. And then one that's focused more on advancement. So, maybe you're in your career and you're ready to move up that ladder, or you're trying to figure out your place as a manager or as a leader, and kind of nail down some of those skills. And then legacy. So perhaps you're a little bit farther along in your career and you're trying to figure out, how can I make an impact as I'm maybe sunsetting my career a little bit, focusing on mentorship and creating a community that supports women, planting a tree whose shade you may not sit underneath. So we're excited to offer programming for anyone that's interested in the work of supporting women. And that's going to look really different in 2021 than it has in the past. But I think it's an exciting time to kind of take on this work.
Nice. Well, and I had a chance to look over, as you said, I'm going to be talking on managing stress and
Mhm.
avoiding burnout and developing resilience. And so I got a chance to look at some of the other topics, and I know that now, I looked over it last week. Do you have a
Mhm.
keynote speaker? I know you have a panel coming on. Do you have a keynote
Yep.
speaker as well?
We don't for this one. We just are focusing on the panel for the Women in Business Luncheon. So it's a good point. We are still doing the Women in Business Luncheon. It is in the middle of the conference, and that panel is focusing on women in traditionally male-dominated industries. So local leaders. So no keynote this year.
Gotcha. And some of those speakers, I saw that the newly appointed chief of police, Carla Red,
Yes.
is going to be there. And who are some of the other speaker or panelists?
Yeah, so in our panel, the panel is moderated by Brittany Hardaway, the new evening anchor from WREX. We are excited. She's a phenomenal asset to our community, and we're excited to have her moderating. And then Michelle Beeman from Collins Aerospace, so representing the aerospace industry, which tends to be male dominated. And then Christy Senstrom Jarrett, representing construction from Senstrom Companies. And then Rebecca White Newgren from Second First Congregation.
Okay.
The religious community tends to be male dominated.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you said, Chief Red, representing the police. So we are really excited. We think it offers a diverse viewpoint and some really accomplished and passionate women.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, I know Chief Red, but I don't know the others as well.
Okay.
And but so I think it'll be a great opportunity, great panel. So
Yeah.
there are still available tickets for people can
Yes.
still sign up and go. What's the best
Correct.
way for people to sign up for it or register?
The best way, you can go directly to the Rockford Chamber website, which is rockfordchamber.com, or you can visit powerrockford.com. And remember that H is before the E. So POWHER Rockford.com. Either one.
Perfect. And if you if someone attended, obviously this is geared about empowerment of women and strengthening that role and continue to reinforce that and champion that, as you said, but also men to attend because like you said, we need to collaborate. It needs to be
Right.
not just exclusion of, but it's true inclusion of both, and that who's the best person for that job, regardless of gender, but that but also what are some of those challenges in that unique role as individuals are still dealing with their personal lives as well as and their home life and family life, as well as some of the other obstacles that we have in the workplace. So what would you say if there was one thing that if someone attends, what would you want them to be able to walk away with? And I know that's a big question, but
that is a big question. I hope they walk away with the mindset that they perhaps should approach people and obstacles and problems with a little more grace. So my hope is that people understand, wow, people in general are going through a lot right now. And this conference is focusing on women and the individual struggles that, stereotypically a lot of women are facing more than men. But that doesn't mean they're exclusively issues for women. So, there's plenty of single dads out there, I'm sure, that have been struggling with balancing work and childcare and remote learning and all of those things as well. And so I'm hoping that people just walk away from this with, man, there's a lot going on and there's obstacles I didn't think about. There's barriers, there's opportunities, there's strengths. And if I didn't think about this for another gender, how does this, impact other races, other religions, other sexualities, other people? So I'm hoping that people come to this and get a couple takeaways, but also stop and think, just being different than who I am, regardless of who that is, could offer different challenges that I may not be 100% aware of. And then what can I do to help people be the best that they could possibly be? Does that mean creating a new policy at work that is more inclusive? Does that mean being more understanding and scheduling meetings at more core business hours than right first thing in the day or end of the day? Or just, stepping back and saying, man, Phil's been running behind the last few days. I wonder why. And rather than say, Phil, you're always running behind, ask. And you find out, Phil's kid is sick, or Phil's parents are ill, or Phil really likes Starbucks. I mean, there's a lot of options. So you never know. But just stopping and pausing, and we could all use a little more grace right now.
Yep, I agree 100%, and that I think that is a great, if everyone coming can take that away, that
Hmm.
that aspect of grace and a little bit of empathy, and a
Yeah.
dose of grace, and then in one tool from each one of the speakers that they sit with. I think that would be a very successful day. So
I think it would be a time well spent.
yeah. So Caitlin, thank you very much for being on the journey. And again, like
Thank
the
you.
things that we talk about all the time is this, the arts and music was your passion, and it was your
Hmm.
driving force growing up and through your young adult years as well. But it's like artists or athletes, it's not what we necessarily accomplish in those activities. It's what we learned while we're going through those activities that we take away and then bring
Oh yeah.
into later in life, and into business, into our families, or whatever it may be. So again, Caitlin,
Yeah.
thank you very much for the work that you're doing with the chamber and for the greater Rockford area. Um,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you and appreciate getting to know you a little bit more today.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. I so appreciate it, and for the work you do.
And if there one last plug, if there's a best way for people to get signed up for the conference on the 28th
Mhm.
that'll be next Thursday, the
Yeah.
28th of October. What's that best way, and what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Rockfordchamber.com will direct you where you need to go. My phone number is there. My email is there as well. Email is probably the best way to get a hold of me, but you can also give me a call, 815-316-4337. And I should make a quick note, as childcare has been an obstacle for people. We are partnering with the YMCA of Rock River Valley to provide childcare for anyone that should need it. So if that's an obstacle, we can help remove that a little bit. So I'm
Perfect.
proud of that.
Perfect. Well, Caitlin, thank you again for being there, and I will also include those in the show notes as well. So,
Wonderful.
um,
Thank you.
as always, thank you for listening today. And as you are continuing your journey, just as Caitlin has talked about, with her first starting off with the arts and then taking that passion that she has and moving that into not only with her family, but then into the community in which she lives. It's those stories in which we want to continue bringing on the journey. If you think of someone that may need to hear this, please pass it along. And I look forward to being with you next week.